Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at the Extreme Z Battle, or the new LRZA, or whatever you want to call it, for Bardock. The physical LR Bardock has just gotten easier and it makes him pretty damn good. So the first thing that you will need to know, obviously as always, continues are not allowed, sports items are not allowed, sport memories are not allowed, so pretty much everything. In terms of units, super strength and extreme strength are going to be your top notch to go to units, but terrifying conquerors is the category, so we're looking mainly at extreme units. Of course, you will receive some grand kais along with 3 stones per stage, totaling up to 30 stones, as well as an extra 3 from the mission, which is to complete stage 7. In terms of Bardock, Bardock gets a pretty bomb awakening. He gets attack and defense of 100%, plus an additional attack of 20% at the start of each turn up to 59%, plus an additional attack of 40% when performing an ultra super attack. He gets ki plus 6 when facing only one enemy, ki plus 4, and an additional defense of 70% when facing 2 or more enemies, plus an additional ki plus 12 and attack of 100%, and performs a critical hit when there is an enemy whose name includes Frieza. So obviously the critical hits stay, but the attack bonus is only temporary. But the main thing with Bardock is Bardock just gets way more improved. They do tell us what stages his awakening medals come from, so if you do have Bardock, you can definitely awaken him there. Now in terms of team build, you will see my beginning team build, but this does change by the final stage, so you're going to want to obviously watch the entire video to see all the teams. Now I'm kidding, I will tell you what I change when I do the first team, and I'll just talk about making the team in general. So obviously we want to first find a strength terrifying conquerors lead. You can do this Crueler, he's very good. However, I honestly preferred the Turles. The Turles' support is not situational, and it gives you another LR where you can link up for some damage. So I find them to be Turles and Turles Squad to be the most useful friend lead to take. In terms of our lead, we're going to be taking the LR Prime Battle Frieza. You can get this King Cold and Mecha Frieza from the Battlefield shop from the Bubba store. You're going to want to probably buy them and a dupe of them. They're 300,000 each, so you're going to need 600,000 Battlefield currency. If you do not have that much Battlefield currency, you're better off just probably buying one dupe, but they are going to be very weak defensively if you do that, so you're definitely going to need to pray for a little bit more luck to complete the stage. In terms of terrifying conquerors that are strength based, there's not that many options, but the options we do have are very good. Rildo, Demon King Piccolo are all general pool units, along with this final form Frieza, who's been on quite a few banners. We won't be using any other LRs that aren't free to play, because we obviously want to try and, realistically just kind of give a team that's usable for most people. And you will see that we're using the free to play Jace. So just to clarify the changes that will be made to this team, so Jace will stay. We will drop Demon King Piccolo out later on for the Easy 8 physical Raccoon, who becomes a very good tank. And we will be using a friend Turles lead, ideally 69% or higher, but 55% will work in the beginning. And that's pretty much it. That is the whole team. I will awaken the Rildo, who will be a very solid tank. In terms of replacing Rildo, maybe your best bet is probably Berta or someone else from the Ginyu Force. Ideally Berta, because if he can stack up some defense, he should be okay. But beyond that, yeah, that's pretty much the only other unit I would replace. The final form Frieza is okay. He provides big bad bosses to a lot of units, so we keep him in the rotation. We have Jace, who's very good the entire way through, especially when partnered up with Raccoon. They both obviously share the Ginyu Force link, and they also have that damage reduction as well, and they also gain those additional benefits like that additional defense, and obviously the guard chance for Raccoon. It's very important that you obviously activate the guard chance for Raccoon, because that's going to make him tank way better. In terms of team build, that's pretty much it. So go for the 2 free to play LRs, the Prime Battle Frieza, the Battlefield shop Mecha Frieza and King Cold. they're going to take a lot of damage eventually, but it's not something that you're going to need to focus on right now. If you got them at 55%, that should be okay, but you're going to probably want to stick some kind of defensive equipment on them, maybe even some type support defense items as well. Their damage is not so important. Getting their 18 key helps out the Turles and the Prime Battle Frieza rotation, but that's going to be the rotation I suggest you use for your damage. So we'll skip ahead here to stage 5. Not much changed up until stage 5. Obviously Bardock kind of picks up a couple more immunities. He's originally only immune to stun, but you can see he's now immune to reduction of defense and sealing and stunning. But you can see the continuation of the Terrifying Conquerors theme. It's very important that you activate the legendary power link, because that's going to enable a lot of damage. So pick a Turles friend. You can see Turles is in there. The team hasn't changed yet. Rildo's just been awakened. Rildo's very good. If you do have Rildo, please use him. If you don't have Rildo, like I said, replace him with Berta or something, and replace Demon King Piccolo with the Easy Aid or Raccoon. If you don't have Rildo, then replace Rildo with Easy Aid Raccoon and keep Demon King Piccolo in, but just kind of drop in Raccoon to replace whichever one of the general pool units you don't have. That's going to be your best bet, and then start slowly working through the Ginyu Force units. I think you can do it with Berta. I think if you add any more, you're probably going to struggle. Please remember, it's super important in LRZAs to activate the legendary power link. You need to have legendary power active for it to do the damage. If you just have a legendary unit and legendary power is not active, they will not activate the damage that they do. So that's going to be a very large problem for you. You're not going to do nearly as much damage as you plan on doing. So realistically, you really want to make sure that that's kind of activated. If you're struggling to activate legendary power, that's why I suggest bringing Turles along. Not only is Turles great, yes, it is a lower leader skill, but Turles is great and his support is unconditional. But that gives you 3 LRs from which to activate the legendary power link. And unless you have rainbowed the Mecha Cooler and Frieza, they're going to start taking a lot of damage, and I just don't feel like them being linked with Frieza was the way to go. Frieza gets big bad bosses from Turles. Frieza can perform a hell of a lot of damage alongside Turles, so I don't know. For me, I felt like Turles was definitely the way. People who maybe have Turles are running double Cooler leads and things like that, they're more than welcome to. But I definitely think if you don't have Turles, if you don't have Cooler, use Turles as your friend lead. That's going to help you out way more than if you do, if you use Cooler. Cooler will be manageable for the first couple stages, but probably from around stage 7 to stage 10, switching to Turles is going to net you much better results, just overall. That being said, I do think this is one of the easier LRZAs. Don't think it's as niche as, or it definitely didn't trouble me as much as the Goku Frieza one or the Broly one. And I think that's just because we have 4 great free-to-play options. I mean, Raccoon was great, Jace was great, the Prime Battle Frieza was enormously helpful, and the Mecha Cooler and Frieza honestly really helped out. So I think just having 4 really good options has kind of made everything a lot easier to handle. Of course, that's just a benefit to us. So if you've been doing your free-to-play work, I'm not going to say you're going to be able to pass this, but the fact that you can use a free-to-play lead, you can use some additional free-to-play LRs, you can use 2 other free-to-play units, it is definitely a possibility for new players to get quite high up in this, and then I'm sure you could clear it. You might need a bit of luck. It took me 2 or 3 tries to clear the final stage here, but if you get like a Rainbow Turles, you've got a lot of stats to work with. So we'll see here, just to highlight, obviously we are changing in the Raccoon for the Demon King Piccolo. Again, please, if you, for example, don't have Rildo, obviously put Raccoon in there, and just try and change up your team where you can fill in those slots. In terms of the final stage, it is quite tough. Your main priorities are going to be to get Jace and Raccoon into a rotation, and to get Turles and Prime Battle Frieza into a rotation. Once that's done, you should be fine. If Raccoon can be moved to take on the super attack, always do that. And if you can move Jace into the first slot, that also really helps out. The reason why it helps out is because Jace on his super attack will raise allies' attack and defense by 20%. Now, if Jace does that in the first slot, that means everyone else in the rotation is going to get a nice big chunky increase to their attack and defense. I would only really suggest moving Jace into the first slot if there are no attacks before he can attack. Once Jace attacks once or twice, his defense is normally quite fine because he gets obviously the bonus from his passive. He also raises his defense on his super for one turn, and he also provides that buff again of defense. So Jace's defense can get decently high. Just make sure he's not taking too many attacks beforehand. In terms of the Freezer, the Prime Battle Freezer, he's definitely a first slot option, but just put him wherever you can in an attempt to either soak up some attacks. Obviously he gets really good defense after he supers, and of course also you need to have him linked to have that legendary power activated. The again super important thing that you need to focus on is having that legendary power activated. If you don't have legendary power activated, you are going to struggle with doing damage. It's just how it is, and this team's not designed for the slog. It's not like the Broly EZA where I kind of built a team that would just take forever to clear the stage and everything like that. This team's not designed for the slog. This team is literally designed to like survive and just dish out damage. Like, it's just there to dish out damage. Your goal is literally to try and link the Turles and the Freezer as quickly as possible and have them throw out as much damage as possible. Like, that's how you survive. So it's definitely something that, you know, could also benefit, like if you start the stage and you have Jace and Raccoon already linked up and you have Freezer and Turles already linked up, then you've kind of like won half the battle, because having your main rotations already set up from the beginning means you're going to be doing good damage right off the bat, and you're going to obviously also have a solid defensive rotations as well, and then the rest of your units you just work around there. The reason we need to make sure that we use Jace obviously is he also has the ability to see super attacks, which is super helpful. So that is something that you should do, because using super attacks is pretty damn good and obviously helps out quite a bit. So definitely something that I do suggest you do. Activate Turles' super attack as well. It will cause him to fire off a second super attack, which will increase his damage. So there's no real loss in doing it. Obviously we don't gain some of the benefits of Turles because we can't stun and we can't seal Bardock, so we can't really activate that attacks effective against all types, and that doesn't really matter because we are already effective against all types because we are fighting a physical type unit. So that is just one of those things. Obviously Turles really helps out. His buff to the Terrifying Conquerors category increases Freeze's defense, increases the floating unit's defense, and just basically helps out quite a bit. Obviously I don't think you need to link level Freezer to complete this stage. You are going to be spending the majority of the stage below 80% health. Having him at link level 10 is probably going to help you with initial damage if you get him in first turn, but if you get him in anything other than first turn, or even if you just move him to second slot, you're probably going to have big bad bosses activated. So I don't think it's necessary. It is just one of those things. But yeah, obviously generally this is quite fine. Stage 10 took me 2 or 3 tries, like I said. The main issue was, one, I only had 55% Turles. Those units take a lot of damage. You're going to need that single dupe in Turles as a friendly to try and get to have an okay defense from Turles. If you can get a rainbow one, that's great. You'll probably have a way easier time. Then obviously the next thing is just making sure that you get your rotations. The moment I got Jace and Raccoon first turn in the first slot, pretty much guaranteed victory. Even though you saw I had to move Freezer and Turles around to get them linked up, it basically allowed me to guarantee victory, because Raccoon's really good once he builds up stacks. If he activates his guard, obviously he takes like almost no damage, and if Jace supers in the first slot, that really helps out as well. You can see here how I've moved Jace around to try and get that additional defense for Freezer, who doesn't have a lot of defense at all. Raccoon's going to tank really well here. He's going to get his guard active. If Raccoon didn't activate his guard here, we would have died. 100%, but Raccoon's got a high chance, so it's a pretty solid chance of him activating it, so we are quite, like, we're okay, we're comfortable with that. And then yeah, pretty much from here it was fine. Once we got to this stage, obviously we're a bit low on health, but Frieza tanks more than fine. He takes a little bit of damage in that first slot if he gets attacked beforehand, but he dishes out so much damage that we managed to obviously clear up the fight. So there we go, that's stage 10 completed. So pretty, like, difficult of course, but not the hardest easier, which is really good. And some great free-to-play options here. Mecha Frieza and King Cold, Prime Battle Frieza, Jace, Raccoon. I would even put Berta in there, is probably usable. And yeah, just really solid. Would I suggest farming this stage? I mean, I don't really suggest farming any LRZA for money, but if you have like the perfect Terrifying Conquerors team, then you probably can definitely farm this quite easily. I don't think it's the hardest LRZA. And then we also completed the stage 10 mission as well, so 33 stones in total. Just before we wrap up, I just want to talk about Bardock's banner. So there is a banner for Bardock. It's a much smaller banner than the other legendary banner, which means you actually have a higher chance of getting Bardock if you manage to pull a featured unit. That is, if you manage to pull a featured unit, so still the same percentage there, but you also get yellow coins. So you can choose if you want to summon, you're welcome to go for it. But that's it from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, stay safe, and bye!